We're up. All right, it's 7:01. I will call the town board meeting for March 18th, 2019 to order. First order of business is the approval of the agenda. Patrick, do you have anything?
No, sir. Oh,
Supervisor.
Patrick.
Supervisor Ruzek has something.
I would like to add an agenda item and call it 9A, introducing the tree trust.
All right, so noted. Anything else?
No.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion to approve payment of the bills.
I'll move to approve payment of the bills.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, item number 4, I need approval of the minutes of March 4th. You had a chance to read through them?
I'll move to approve the minutes of March 4th. I saw no additions or deletions.
Do I have a second on the motion?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You didn't read them.
I briefly read them.
It had to be a first.
I know, I'm sorry.
All right, item number 5, we have 3 items on the consent agenda. Scott, you want to read those?
All right. Item 5A, Universal Forest Products, approve the second amendment to the Hoffman Road parking lot lease agreement. Item 5B, Southwind Holdings LLC, 5960 Highway 61 SAC determination request. Receive the request and refer to the March 29th, 2019 executive meeting for discussion. And item 5C, construction activity report, receive.
All right, motion for the consent agenda has been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Item number 6 is old business. We have the administrative office upgrades.
Yes, Mr. Chair, a couple of things for the board to consider this evening. So if you'll recall, at our last meeting, it was directed to take our initial proposal that had come in from TKDA regarding our security realignment within Township Hall to see if what the marketplace might reflect in terms of cost. The day after that meeting, I did secure 2 engineering firms that were interested in putting in a proposal on the project. Subsequently, both bailed.
Okay.
The first one bailed within the first 3 days. The second one waited until 4:15 Friday to say that they weren't interested, but called me back today saying that they were interested. So I've got some options for you to consider. Do you either A, want to roll with what TKDA has proposed, B, hold off on that one and wait for the additional proposal to come in from the other engineering firm, or C, do you want me to start this all over and do a formal RFP for engineering services specific to security redesign? Now, we do have a timing component with the rest of the capital project that is scheduled for Township Hall that we need to get moving on here shortly. I'll just remind you is that I'm not trying to be passive aggressive there. I'm just telling you that's what it is.
Did this second company give any reason as to why they said they were interested, then they said they weren't, then they said they were?
Timeline initially, but they do have staff available that they didn't think was going to be available. So I should have a proposal from them within 48 hours.
Well, it would be prudent to maybe just look at that first and just see if it's something that's way out of our park and may have to go out looking then?
So with that, what I would suggest is why don't I ride that one out to the end, and we have our executive committee meeting on the 29th. Why don't we just review those, and if I get nothing between now and then, we can make that decision at that point.
Patrick, there was some talk of having the Ramsey County Sheriffs maybe look at the
Yeah,
facility?
the first one I went to was per a request or a suggestion from Ramsey County Sheriff,
Okay.
and they were the ones that dropped. So, anyway, they couldn't do the timing of it.
I think it makes sense to talk to these people, talk at the executive meeting and make a decision.
Well, if you've already solicited them, if they're
Yeah.
gonna have something within
48
before that,
hours.
yeah, I guess there's no,
Okay.
I don't know, Scott, anything?
I agree.
Okay.
I mean, you know, it's taxpayer money, and I just think we need to have something to compare to what TKDA said to us, so.
Sure. That's fine. We'll schedule that for the executive committee on the 29th.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 7, we have a public hearing for the 2040 Comprehensive Plan. This is a public hearing, so I would need a motion for waiving of the reading, noting it's been properly published.
I'll move to waive the reading, noting it was properly published in the newspaper.
I will second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion to open the public hearing.
I will move to open the public hearing.
A second?
Second?
Made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Tom, you gonna run this, or?
I will let Laurel
Okay.
introduce Laura with HKGI Planning Consulting. She's been helping us out with our 2040 Comprehensive Plan update.
Laura, you did a great job at the town board meeting.
Well, thank you. This will look very similar, so no surprises coming your way. For those who I haven't met, I'm Laura Chamberlain. I'm a planner with Hoisington Kogler Group Incorporated. We've been assisting the township through the 2040 Comprehensive Plan update process, a process that we are getting close to a significant milestone on, so I'm very excited about that and one step closer to being done. And so this is kind of an adaptation of what I presented at the annual meeting, just an overview of what is a comprehensive plan. It is a long-range policy document that is meant to look at everything within a big picture, looking out to the year 2040 in this specific case. It's intended to be broad in scope and policy-oriented, and then used as a reference for your township staff and town board, planning commission, and other decision makers for guidance for future more specific decisions in the future. And it covers a wide variety of topics: land use, housing, parks, trails, and open space, transportation, and other infrastructure. We are in the final phase of our planning process. Started about a year and a half ago with understanding current conditions, moved through community context and did a number of community engagement elements, then actually got into the writing of the comprehensive plan chapters, drafting with my team and then as well as township staff, and then the next step was bringing everything together into a complete draft, which then we submitted for adjacent government review, and now we're in the seeking approval stage. There were a few opportunities within the process for the public to give their input. At the beginning of the project, we had an online mapping commenting software called Social Pinpoint, where people could place an icon within the township and write a comment, and then also respond to other people's comments of things that they liked and things that they would like to see changed within the township. And we had over 70 participants from that. Last year, around this time, we had a display at the annual town meeting, and then that display continued at the administrative offices for people to interact with and ask questions. And then tonight is our final public input with the public hearing. The comprehensive plan has the following chapters, starting with introduction and community context, then focusing on land use, transportation, water resources and community services, parks and open space, and we have a separate chapter for our trail plan. The parks and open space and trail plan were written by the park board. Is that what you have here? Okay. Your park board and with help from township staff, housing plan, and then implementation. A major part of the comprehensive planning process is looking into how the city, how your area is going to grow, the township, In terms of population, households, and employment, we have from the Metropolitan Council regional forecasts for the entire area, and then they had estimates back in 2015 when this process first started on their end of what the township was likely to absorb for the decades of 2020, 2030, and 2040. And those estimates forecasts were within what was called the system statement. Since then, we've had more recent data collected and for 2016 and 2017 to understand more of what has been happening on the ground. And working with Met Council data, they have actually, with their forecasting staff, they have actually recommended some decreases in the growth projections for the township. As shown on the graphic here, with having a slight growth in number of households over the next 20 years. However, because it is forecasted that the average size of households is going to decrease over time, that there will be a slight increase in population, but then it will level off. So you can see between 2030 and 2040 that we estimate the same population. Bolded in that table there for employment, since the annual meeting last week, and as well as when these packets went out, I've had further conversations with with the Metropolitan Council's forecasting staff, and they actually recommended lowering the employment forecasts further than what was in your packets and what was available online. So those numbers had been 3,000 employment in 2020, 3,500 in 2030, and 3,800 by 2040. Looking at the estimates for what was coming in at 2018, the township was still around 2,500, and felt that within 1 to 2 years it'd be pretty significant to jump an extra 500 to reach that 2020 goal, so that we recommended shifting those. So in what's presented to you tonight, I would recommend to approve the submittal of this plan to the Metropolitan Council for that draft to include these updated numbers.
Tom, did you look at that number with what's available on Centerville Road and how many light industrials could go in there? I mean, did you throw any kind of a number at what might, to try to coincide with those numbers?
You
or
know,
not?
we really didn't, I really didn't for commercial, just population. I'm not sure what's going on with the commercial and how to, estimate the
I
future.
mean, I know
there.
we've got people looking at those sites, but I thought they were bringing, a couple of them would be bringing in a couple hundred people, just in those couple sites.
We do have some based on acreage, and then we have some kind of high-level estimating of acreage, then floor area ratio based on of the floor areas that we can estimate, then number of employees per square foot, and we have developed that. We have those estimates for employment broken out within our what's called the TAZ tables. These are broken down by our transportation analysis zones, which is a requirement of the plan, and located within the transportation chapter. Because we work within a range of estimates of number of employees per square footage, these numbers are still within that range of what we would say is an industry standard. If the township ends up having more than these forecasts, it is okay. We are kind of in a unique situation that the growth of the employment and even population and households, all of the infrastructure that you have is already in place and can accommodate these numbers regardless, and we have a little wiggle room. Now, if we projected that it was going to grow by 10,000 employees, that would be a different story, but we have road infrastructure and sewer and water infrastructure that can accommodate a range. And because the growth between 2010 and present day hasn't been as sharp as we thought it might be, we wanted to kind of reflect more of a gradual growth within the forecasts, and that's why I'm recommending these adjustments.
So the adjustment, though, is not going to drive anything else in the plan up or down?
Correct, yep. The land use designations will stay the same, and our infrastructure and traffic forecasts remain the same. We're using the county's traffic forecast for our arterial network, and those are looking at such a broad regional draw of of vehicles coming in every day that a couple hundred employees in or out from the township isn't impacting that as much.
So we're really, if I heard you right, we're really basically fully developed, and more changes would be reflective of a redevelopment versus new growth of employment opportunities.
I think, well, there are some opportunities still. Limited opportunities along the Centerville Road area, where there's still some vacant areas for industrial and commercial, and then as well as some possible redevelopment of, or maybe intensification of what's already there. And so, again, if things change and those start to develop at a higher rate than what we're seeing today, then that doesn't really have the policy and the land use is all remaining the same. So it's just kind of what numbers are on this table, really. And that kind of brings me to our trends and directions. Really, the township, our intention with the comprehensive plan was to kind of maintain what had been established already within the 2030 comprehensive plan. The township continues to have this unique role as a township government, but completely developed, spread out amongst, is it 5 unique areas you have? And so there aren't really many other places within the metro that are like it, and kind of the blanket general regional framework we had to adjust a bit in order to make sure that what the township was looking for and the direction you were going in fit within the regional network, but also maintained where you were going. As mentioned before, there are few properties that are vacant or underdeveloped. There is some future residential areas, primarily along Centerville Road, as well as those commercial and industrial areas also along Centerville Road that we mentioned before. Because of the layout of the township and how you're surrounded by other cities, the prime areas for redevelopment that have maybe the amenities that are required for intensification of use are typically found around those key corridors and intersections that are actually within your neighboring cities or one at areas of bordering. And so the areas that you have within the township that are prime for redevelopment were redeveloped, I'd say, in the last 15 years. So you're kind of already there to a certain extent. And another element within the kind of document as a whole is that the park board use this as an opportunity to prioritize future trail connections within the township and within the region. So this is the future land use plan. The map is essentially the same as the 2030 land use plan. We did add public institutional as a specific use, as well as our residential PUD designation had adjusted densities within it. And that there's one property that has the residential PUD designation, It is along Centerville Road and currently undeveloped. We felt that that was the best opportunity for having a mix of housing types and densities within one planned unit development versus regular subdivision. The designation for PUD had been in the 2030 plan, but the specifics of it were adjusted slightly for this comprehensive plan. And then you can see the breakdown of different land uses within the township. Obviously, water and wetlands take up a large portion of your physical area, and you also have significant parks and open space due to the county and regional parks, as well as your township parks and open space. So back in August, you were presented with the, at that point, most updated draft of the comprehensive plan, and recommended it for distribution to adjacent and affected jurisdictions. That is a list that was produced by the Met Council of every city, county, school district, watershed district, and some other public entities that have jurisdiction within the area or near, right next to the township.
Laura, was there a reason why some of our actual adjoining neighbors weren't on this list, like North Oaks, Gem Lake?
Yes, so they were all contacted. We only received comments from these 7 entities. So they all had 6 months to review, and that is not uncommon, I would say, to not get comments back from.
So why is White Bear Lake on there? They're showing they were contacted, but then they say they waived comment. Is there a reason for this?
Yes, so within our
Offend you, Ed.
within our distribution letter, there's an option to say we have no further comment, or we've read what you have and are fine with it, is basically what they're saying. So it's kind of just an official or formality to, yeah.
I mean, I understand why MnDOT wouldn't have a comment, because they're gonna review everything we give them, but it just seems odd that they would respond and say no comment.
When you said that it's not uncommon, have these same communities not bothered to respond in the past? Or is it not uncommon that communities in general just don't always respond?
The latter, yeah. I don't know about specifically how other communities, when they receive them, what their formal review process is. Some communities are a little bit behind, and so they haven't figured out what their land use is going to be, and other communities are way ahead. So there's a multitude of reasons, or they just don't have the staff time or capacity to actually review it. But they had the 6 months, which is a fair amount of time to review if they needed to.
Of the cities that, and entities that commented, they were just minor little comments, nothing, I mean, the only one I really remember is Vadnais Heights.
Yep, and that's
But-
on our next slide.
But outside of that, they were mostly little suggestions.
Well, except for the Met Council, that seemed like a huge
Yes.
number of comments. And I guess my question is, do they typically have a lot of comments?
Right,
They
so.
didn't even make suggestions. They were like, you need to do this, you need to do that.
Yep, so the Met Council comment review, their preliminary review, is technically outside of this review. They, because they are the ones who review our plans for completeness and then consistency with regional policy. And they are sort of the final reviewer before it comes back to you to be adopted. The public hearing tonight and then resolution would be to submit the draft to them officially for their official review, to find it complete and in compliance. The preliminary review is an option from them to give cities and townships the opportunity to say, okay, here's our draft. Is there anything we're missing while we're waiting for this 6-month comment period from others so that we can be working behind the scenes to address any gaps? And so our review from the Met Council highlighted a number of issues. Some of them were minor and more technical. A lot of the wastewater issues are things that we're still working with the township engineers, as well as Public Works are working closely with Met Council staff on that to figure out the exact check boxes to check on that. There were, within the draft of the plan, there were some that was submitted to the Met Council for their preliminary review. There was some confusion over how we were approaching land use, and Tom and I and other staff went and met with their review team and kind of walked them through where the township was at. Essentially, regional policy for the community designation for White Bear Township. It's considered a suburban community. I'm not sure what the designation had been in the last plan or the last round of planning, but this round of planning, the Met Council said that a minimum of new development or redevelopment would have to be a minimum of 5 units an acre on average. And that did not really gel with where the direction that the township was going, as far as we had designated the low-density housing designation for a number of the vacant parcels that were still along Centerview Road, and those were going to be likely to be developed by 2030 in compliance with the 2030 plan, which is considered adopted policy. And so after meeting with the Met Council, they understood that we were still in compliance for those parcels with our 2030 plan, and we would just be continuing that. The only changes that applied to then is this residential PUD designation, which the adjustments to the densities within there do meet that regional policy.
Laura, would this have anything to do with, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but right now our elected officials are trying to get the township reclassified as an urban township. There's a number of reasons why we're going that route, but does that affect, instead of a suburban township, as an urban township? Is there any difference?
I don't know that that designation would have any impact on specifically this document or how the Met Council recognizes it. They have 4 or 5, or I guess 5 or 6 different community levels that they kind of apply to everyone. So another example of a suburban community that I have worked with is the city of Mound out on west part of Lake Minnetonka. And because they are a fully developed community, all of their future growth is going to happen through redevelopment. If you were a centralized city in the same situation that you're in now, that would likely be the case. But in the way that we were talking earlier of most of your redevelopment opportunities are actually not within your jurisdiction, it is appropriate for the land uses that you've designated to continue moving forward. And so making that a bit more clear and concise within the draft were some major changes within the land use that happened between the last draft and this one. Just really spelling it out a lot more so that we were clear on what the township, what our direction is. As far as the adjacent and affected jurisdiction review, the only significant comment we received was from the city of Van Ness Heights. They requested that the future road connection for the arterial network that was shown going along White Bear Parkway, and then connecting Labor Road, be removed. They have removed it from their plan, and a lot of the elements that contributed to their removing it included it would run through a natural environment, lake and wetland area, and also private property of a party that is no longer interested in connecting through there. And so the Planning Commission, in their recommendation to the town board, recommended that this also be removed from the draft.
Tom, we finished that road, I don't know, 10 years ago, that little connection. It wasn't very long, but,
Finish the base of the road, yes, right up to our border with Vadnais.
so, I mean, is there a reason to just leave it sit, or do we do anything with it?
It's functioning as the Cortex back driveway and truck access right now. Other than that, that'll be its function unless we decide we want to pursue this Labor Road connection again. That was a recommendation. The Labor Road connection was a recommendation out of the I-35E Corridor Committee 25 years ago. And the various communities in this area adopted it, and now there's just some second thoughts. So Vadnais has taken it out of their plan. Discussion at the last Planning Commission meeting, should we keep it in, should we take it out? Planning Commission recommended taking it out of the plan. Gem Lakes just wrapping up their comprehensive plan, the initial draft. They continue to have it in.
Well, it would relieve some traffic around them, I suppose. That's why they'd like to leave it in.
Well, I'm not sure they politically support it, but we'll see how their comp plan plays out here over the next 6 months.
Well, obviously, if we take it out, it's not an issue to put it back in, is it?
No, I don't think so. And it would still, we show a trail corridor along that same route, and all the communities still have that trail corridor in.
As I mentioned, the Planning Commission had their review of the draft on their February 28th meeting, and they recommended to the town board to authorize the submittal of the plan with the recommended removal of the Parkway and Labor Road connection. So the action requested this evening is to conduct the public hearing, consider and discuss public comments in the Planning Commission recommendation, and consider a resolution to approve the submittal of the draft of the comprehensive plan. I will note that the draft that you have that was included in your packet and available online, that there will still be technical changes related to inflow and infiltration being put together by TKDA. Currently, we are allowed to submit and then submit afterwards some supplemental materials, and so that's how that submittal will work. We've worked that out with the Met Council, and that will not affect our timelines. And then, as I mentioned earlier, recommending to have those minor changes with the updated employment forecasts that I discussed earlier. Within your packets, there was one public comment from entity, the St. Paul and Ramsey County Food Commission, I believe. That had been distributed to us through the 6-month review time period, but technically they're not an adjacent jurisdiction, so wanted you to consider that in your decision this evening through public hearing comments. And then after this evening, we will be submitting to the Met Council with your if that's the direction we're getting this evening, by March 20th, which is our extension deadline. The Met Council will then review for completeness and compliance with regional policy. Once we are deemed complete, then they have 120 days to do their full review. There might be some trading back and forth, And then finally, the plan will come back to the town board for official adoption, and that's when the comp plan goes into effect.
All right, any questions?
I got a couple. This is more for my education. I know that we're talking about the 2040 plan, but it looks as though the township has gone through this exercise every year? I see prior years,
Every 10 years.
but I saw on the website, like for, I don't know, I gotta look it up. The 2017, 2021 capital improvement, 2016 to 2020, 2015 to 2019.
Yeah,
What are those?
That's our capital improvement plan. That's our,
That's what Mr. Kelly puts together.
yes, our
Okay, I saw
financial plan.
comprehensive capital, sorry, my mistake.
Yeah, so this is our development plan. That's our financial plan.
The second item was, I think it was the feedback from the city of Lino Lakes, talking about potential growth and need for sewer infrastructure, and I kind of read that they're hoping we don't forget about them.
Yes, that is, I'd say, the essence of what their comments came back as. And I know that
Well, we
Tom-
can't take comments from them. They weren't on the list.
They were on the list.
Oh, dang it.
But, yeah, I think they had initially sent us some comments that were more reflective, as part of the comp plan, our water management plans are included in that, and so they were commenting on some specific things within that. But I know that Tom and staff have been working closely with them on some updated, getting the ball rolling perhaps on some.
Southern portion of Lino Lakes is looking to the town for water for future development. So they're hoping that and sewer also, we have the main sewer line running up and down Centerville Road. So they're looking to the town for capacity. Been asking for some time now. TKDA, our engineering firm, has gone through and provided them the information. It appears the capacity is there to serve them. So that's what their comments were relative to. That information had not been provided at that time.
Well,
They
the
made those comments. so
Sewer's
that-
fairly simple. Water's a little tougher.
Well, yeah.
Doesn't say we have to provide it, just they wanted to make us aware that they're interested, I guess.
I guess that was kind of like a follow-up comment is, okay, what does the expectation on us then?
Well, I'll make a comment. You know, we in the last year or since the lawsuit over the White Bear Lake, we've said we're not entertaining any offers to really, to increase our water capacity because we have issues of what we can and cannot do. So until it's resolved, I think we just acknowledge that that's out there, but we're doing what we have to do for ourselves.
Okay, okay.
Fair.
Steve, you got anything else of Laura or Tom?
No, I'm ready to move forward with this. I think we've heard it twice.
All right, so I guess we're looking for a motion to.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm
I'm sorry,
sorry.
Mr. Chair, members of the board. You still have the public, any comments
Oh,
from the public?
I'm sorry. Yeah, getting ahead of ourselves here.
And just as a point of clarification too, if they approve this draft, that isn't necessarily the final. We are going to go, we're doing this now to meet a deadline.
This is a submittal.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's going to come back for further comment and review, but yeah.
And final adoption.
Yep, okay. Just making sure we got the bailout.
I got that.
So I do need a motion to open for public comment.
I will move to open the public comment portion.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Would any of you ladies like to talk about this very fascinating subject?
It's your opportunity to be on television.
Laura just sat up there for a half an hour
Yeah.
extolling her hard work over the last X number of months.
Y'all should really get into urban planning. It's riveting.
All right, so I guess we have no public comment. I need a motion to close that portion of the hearing.
I will move to close the public comment portion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, now I can entertain a motion to,
I have a question, Mr. Chair. As part of our information tonight, we received some correspondence from a citizen. Do we just acknowledge that we received it, Mr. Swisher?
Yes, that was received.
So do we need to acknowledge that we received it as part of
Probably
this?
actually, it would be
been, but go right
probably on added agenda materials and supplements, I would think.
It's right here. That's part of our packet, so I don't know. Do we need to do that, or, I don't, whatever you want. I'm just
Well,
saying.
maybe we'll refer to the attorney.
Yeah, Tom, I would suggest that you meant, yes.
Just that we received it?
Yes.
My question is, you may have already done that, but go ahead and do it again if you haven't. That relates to the Labor Road connection. That-
Right.
Kind of a moot point now, isn't it?
He was. Yes, with the proposal, we are not including that Labor Road option unless the board says we should put that back in.
So we do not need to acknowledge it, because it probably was acknowledged before, is what you're saying? All right,
Correct.
then we'll just, I'm done with my questions. I'll withdraw that. And I'll make a resolution authorizing the submittal of the 2040 Comprehensive Plan draft to the Metropolitan Council as required by Minnesota state law, the Metropolitan Land Planning Act.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving on. New business, item 8A.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. DNR Outdoor Recreational Grant Program. This must be you, Tom?
This is me. Staff's been working with the Park Board. We have a recommendation to submit an application to the DNR as part of their outdoor recreation grant program that provides funding, competitive funding that will help us in this case, excuse me, continue to develop Polar Lakes Park. I have a list of items which grant funding is available for. Again, it is competitive, so that we're not the only one applying for this. There's many communities applying for it, and we just try to fall in line and finish first, or in the top anyway, so we have funding. In this case, we're going to request a total of $250,000, which is the maximum grant amount, to help us, again, improve Polar Lakes Park. Specifically, this funding would be used to complete a perimeter trail within the park, and also to help fund construction of a restroom in the park. We estimate the cost of those two items to be in the $550,000 range, so hopefully grant funding will cover up to $250,000 of that, and the Polar Lakes Park Fund would have to cover any additional funding. The application is due at the end of this month. The Park Board will be taking a look at continuing to discuss this at their meeting, but the recommendation is to move forward. We've got the application semi-completed at this point, and just looking for the town board to adopt a resolution that would support submitting the application.
When would we find out if we won the grant, and when would the planned improvements be made?
We would find out in June of 2019. Projects would have to begin after that and have to be completed by the middle of June 2021.
Is this a dollar-for-dollar grant, so you have to have, we have to match whatever the grant is for?
Yeah, 50-50 match, exactly.
Oh, Steve, member of the Park Board, any insight on,
Any insight on if we're going to be successful, or? No, I have no insight on that. But I'll move to a resolution approving the submission of the application for the DNR Outdoor Recreation Grant Program.
And I'll second that.
motion's made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Tom, good luck.
Thank you. It's a lot of paperwork.
Right well.
I mean, that'd be a huge thing for us.
Tough to-
All right, under new business, item 8B, the Saputo Shelter. That must be you too, huh, Tom?
Yeah, this is just an update. We've been working with Saputo Corporation, a company in the city of White Bear. Used to be Kohler Mix. They have a funding program that helps public projects and members of the Lake Links Trail Task Force have connections over there, suggested that we work with them for funding to construct a shelter in one of our parks. Initially, we were proposing to put this up in Rutherford Park, up on the north end of White Bear Lake, along County Road 90, or Highway 96 up there. But have shifted locations. There was not a lot of neighborhood support for this particular shelter. Seems to be good support for the trail, but not necessarily the shelter up there. So we looked at a different location at Bel Air Beach. We've got an older shelter there near the road that's somewhat dilapidated, probably at the end of its useful life, and this could potentially replace that shelter, or it could be a second shelter if we keep that one there also. We've got a location identified for that. And I just wanted to update the town board as to the process that we've been going through working with the park board. The next step is to actually apply for funding, which would be in the neighborhood of $25,000 to $30,000 we expect from Saputo to help us construct that shelter. There'll be additional costs involved with that, construction of a slab, any demolition work, grading work. So there will be town funding necessary to help with this, but we think the shelter itself would be paid for by Saputo.
Is this a similar shelter that they've been talking about on 96, or is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, there's been models. It's kind of modeled after an old rail station. It would be an open-sided shelter, mildly pitched roof. I think they increased the size when we changed the location. 14 by 30, I think, were the dimensions of it, and wanted to make sure that it would accommodate picnic users, picnic tables, since that park is very popular for that.
Any timing ideas as to when the money will be coming in and when we'll get the work done?
We are planning to start work after the summer season here, so going through the planning process right now with a goal of either starting construction this fall or possibly next spring. We don't want to start too early and mess up the park for the summer. There'll be some work going on down there now this summer. You can recall the beach house just had a new roof put on it. The interior is being remodeled, some plumbing fixtures. I believe the parking lot is slated for a reconstruct. So there's some things that we're planning to do down there already this year, and we would, smart to tie that in, at least with parking lot if we're doing additional grading.
So they have the shelter situated so it doesn't compromise on parking, or?
Yeah, we're still picking the final location, but we think we have a good spot there. We could potentially relocate a swing set or expand a playground down there. There's been some support for that. There's some discussion about the pond, stormwater treatment pond that's down there. We got to check the size of that and make sure it's large enough. Got a number of ash trees down there, nice mature ash trees that we know with emerald ash borer are slated for trouble. That may impact future location of a playground down there also.
All right, any other questions?
Nope.
Well, there's no action required here, Tom, just information.
No, just an update for you.
All right, moving on, item number 9A, the tree trust.
Comment on that one?
Go ahead, Steve.
The township has been contacted by Water Grumman as part of their agreed settlement with the MPCA that they have two environmental projects that they have to have agreed to work on to the total of about 1.5 million. One of the projects is tree planting and maintenance project in the White Bear Township, White Bear Lake and Gem Lake and surrounding areas. We have been contacted by Water Gremlin and an organization called Tree Trust, and we're just going to start preliminary discussions about what they're about and what the program is. We don't have a lot of details, like a lot of the information about the settlement, but I thought it was important that we acknowledge that this is part of the stipulation that they have to work with us on some tree planting, and we're not sure exactly how that's going to work out.
Will this go also through the park board then? Or
Yes,
is this a
as,
separate entity?
well, that's the hope. Tom and I are going to meet this Wednesday, try and get some information about what their process is and what their thoughts are and plans. We're not to agree with anything, and then have to work in conjunction with our park board. Because the park board has been and continues to talk about trees, just like Tom mentioned. We've got emerald ash issues within the township and within our parks, and trees will be replaced or removed, and hopefully this will be something we can use.
Is this a state program, federal program, county program?
We don't,
Water gremlin program.
well, it's not a water,
Tree Trust isn't an
No.
actual
Oh, okay.
program, but.
we really, unless you have more information, we really don't have a lot of information
I
at
believe
this
it's a
point.
state program. They've been around for a long time. We haven't dealt with them for a number of years, but we actually bought a tree spade from them
Oh.
20 years ago or so at least, and utilized it for a number of years before we got rid of it.
All right, so you'll keep us updated, Steve?
Keep you updated.
All right, item number 10, open time. I see our students
Ditched us.
scooted us.
Fled.
Well, they made it almost an hour.
All right, item number 11, I need a motion for receipt of agenda materials and supplements.
So moved.
Wait a second. Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed. Item 12, motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.